Tonverk comes loaded with a wide range of effects. Alongside Elektron's classics, delay, reverb, chorus, and compressor, you will find a collection of new, powerful effects. The effects machines can be modulated with 2 FX LFOs and can be sequenced on every track, including the bus tracks, send effects tracks, and the mix track. Many effects can be used on all tracks, some only on certain tracks. In this video, we will explore the new effects. The new effects include filter effects such as comb filter, filter bank, and low-pass filter, which can be used in addition to the track filter found on every audio track's filter page. We won't be looking at the filter effects in this video, but they are great tools to experiment with. Alright, that's enough for the intro. Let's dive in. We will first look at Degrader and Dirtshaper. Let's test it on this pattern. I'll load the effect on the mix track as the main FX, so it affects the whole pattern. Select the mix track, hold Function, and press FX. Let's try Degrader first. Just a quick note. Knob A to H are used to adjust the parameters shown on the screen. The knob positions correspond to the parameter positions on the screen. So for example, knob A controls the top left parameter, while knob H controls the bottom right one. Now, Degrader is a collection of lo-fi effects. If you have used other Elektron devices before, you are probably familiar with some of these, like bit reduction, overdrive, and sample rate reduction. In addition, we can introduce ring modulation by increasing depth, which can produce a very different sound depending on where the rate is set. Drop and freeze are used to introduce glitch and stutter. Increasing drop will introduce random dropouts, briefly cutting the audio. Freeze introduces randomly placed stutters, which can work like a beat repeat, but in a more random way. Freeze time sets the length of the stutters. This can be random or a specific step value. On the mix track sequencer, I've created parameter locks to control freeze, just to show you an example of how effects can be sequenced. On this trig, I'm parameter locking the freeze to be max, so the stutter will definitely happen on this step, and also with a certain freeze time. To make sure the stutter stops before the start of the bar, I added another trig here with freeze parameter lock to 0. This is what it sounds like. So like this, I can have more control over when the stutter will happen. Next, let's try Dirtshaper. I'll remove these trigs, exit the sequencer, and hold Function and press FX to switch to Dirtshaper. Dirtshaper adds distortion and grit. Drive adds overdrive distortion. And the rectifier flips the negative part of the waveform to positive, making the sound buzzier and brighter. Then we can also add noise that's ring modulated with a distorted input signal, which gives the noise its own character before it's shaped by the filter and resonance. The high-pass filter, low-pass filter, and the mix control all shape the output. Notice that the high-pass filter is a bipolar control. Turn left, it filters the input before the distortion. Turn right, it filters the signal after the rectifier. Both Degrader and Dirtshaper are excellent tools to add distortion, grit, and glitchy texture to your sounds. Next, we'll look at Infinite Flanger and Phase 98. Let's test it on this pattern. It's sounding a little flat and could use some movement. Both Infinite Flanger and Phase 98 can add motion, but they sound quite distinct. We'll start with infinite flanger on the mix track. This is a flanger with a barber pole motion, which gives us the illusion of a continuously rising or falling sweep. The direction of the sweep is set by speed. When it's set to a positive value, we will hear increasingly quick upward motions. When it's set to a negative value, we will hear downward motions. Let's have a listen. On the right, we have downtune. This control affects the characteristics of the flanger by shifting the delay time. With a low value set here, we get the true flanging effect, like the jet plane sound we've been hearing. And as we increase the value, it resembles comb filtering, creating a hollow sound. And at higher values, it becomes an audible echo or delay. Increasing feedback will intensify the effect, adding more resonance, and low-pass filter will help tame the effect. I have set up FXLFO1 to modulate downtune, which intensifies the sound of infinite flanger. Okay, let's move on to phase 98. I'll replace infinite flanger with phase 98. This phaser allows us to morph between different stage numbers with the stage mix control. You can see more notches are added as I increase the value here, which can be reinforced with feedback. A higher stage number generally results in a more pronounced and complex movement, and with this stage mix control, we can control the character of the phaser. The cutoff frequency will set the center frequency for the modulation, which is done by the built-in LFO, moving the notches and peaks up and down the spectrum. The top parameters control the modulation. In addition to speed and depth, we can control the shape of the LFO, and lag will adjust the phase offset of the LFO in the right and left channels, which we can use to create a stereo movement. Let's see how this all sounds. Okay, that's it for infinite flanger and phase 98. Next, we'll explore pitch shifting effects on this pattern. To avoid changing the pitch for the whole pattern, I'll target this sound instead on track 2. Let's load Chrono pitch as an insert effect. Chrono pitch is a granular pitch shifter. The window sets the grain size, which the audio is broken down to, and tune determines the pitch that the grains play back. If you want to use Chrono pitch musically, try setting the tune to octaves, which you can do by holding function while turning the knob. Or you can try 0 or perfect fifth, and so on. Feedback will feed the shifted grains back into the input and add more layers. Let's have a listen to these parameters. When the window is set very low and the feedback is pushed up, it can add a metallic, ring modulation-like character. Then there's a built-in pitch modulation that is controlled by depth and LFO speed. Let's try adding this. With the filters and the mix control to adjust the wet signal, Chrono pitch can be used flexibly to thicken the sound with a harmonic layer. For example, I've set up FXLFO1 to modulate the dry-wet balance, so Chrono pitch comes in and out. And this is what it sounds like when the tune is set to perfect fifth. Next up is Frequency Warper. I'll bypass Chrono Pitch. Frequency Warper is only available on bus tracks and the mix track. I have loaded it here on bus 1, so let's route track 2 to track 9. Hold Function and press Mu to open the routing menu. Hold track 2 and press track 9 to route it to bus 1. Now we should be able to hear Frequency Warper. This is an effect in the style of vintage analog effects. It moves frequencies up and down without preserving their harmonic relationships, making your sounds inharmonic and adding an otherworldly character. Shift sets how far the frequencies are moved. Stereo spread offsets the shift distance between the left and the right channels. And sideband morphs between frequency shifted outputs that have different characteristics. This can be more interesting with the internal frequency modulation controlled by the top row. Both Chrono Pitch and Frequency Warper go beyond simple pitch shifting, adding unique character and texture to your sounds. Lastly, let's look at Daisy Delay and Rumsklang Reverb. We will test them on this pattern. Daisy Delay and Rumsklang Reverb are only available on the Send FX tracks. So I've loaded Daisy Delay on track 14 and Rumsklang Reverb on track 15. Let's look at Daisy Delay first. I'll send track 1 and 2 to Daisy Delay by increasing the send to level on both tracks. And here are the parameters on track 14. This is a delay with more control over the stereo image and evolution over time. Time sets the bass repeat time. Hold Function while turning the knob to snap to a specific note division. The delay time can be modulated internally by increasing mod, and skew creates rhythmic interactions between the left and right by scaling the relative delay times. With modulation increased, the delay wobbles, slightly speeding up and down, affecting the pitch as well, which is even more audible with skew. We can also add saturation to the input signal with drive, and adjust the pan of the input and feedback signals with width. Lastly, the filter can be either low pass or high pass to shape the delay. Now, to go further, I set up 2 FX LFOs on this Send FX track to modulate the bass delay time as well as LFO 1 speed. Here's how it sounds. The last effect we will look at in this video is Rumsklang Reverb. We'll send track 3 to track 15 where Rumsklang Reverb is. As you can hear, Rumsklang Reverb is great for simulating large spaces, and with size set to max, it creates the feel of a massive environment with a lot of persistence added to the sound. And we can use damp to control the high frequencies of the reverb, making it darker or brighter. And we can further adjust how the sound sits in the space with pre-delay and by the amount of early reflections, as well as the filters to tame the reverb. Here is everything together. So even though this pattern was very minimal, these 2 effects, Daisy Delay and Rumsklang Reverb, brought it to life and added a lot of presence. Alright, that's all for this video. Hopefully, these demonstrations gave you a glimpse of what these effects can do and how they sound.